Guys, welcome back to a slightly different type of video today. As you all know, I've been a fitness coach for the last 8 years, and the majority of women that we work with at FD Athletics have one goal in mind. They want to build muscle, they want to get a gym girl booty, and they want a Pilates core, right? They want to build muscle, lose body fat, and overall, they want to look strong and they want to look toned and they want to feel confident in their body. So what we're going to break down and talk about today is how do you do that? How can you do that on your own? If you're not ready to hire a coach, if you don't want to coach, if you just don't understand why you're working so hard in the gym, yet you're not seeing the progress that you want, like maybe you're even going to the gym 4 or 5 days per week, maybe you're even tracking your calories or you're tracking your macros. Why are you not seeing that big transformation? That's going to be exactly what we cover today, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. The different phases, why would you invest 6 months, 8 months into building muscle? We're going to break it all down. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about what body recomposition is. Then we're going to talk about building muscle. We'll talk about the difference between reverse dieting and bulking, and then we'll talk about fat loss phase. Since we are a couple of months away from summer right now, the fat loss phase is probably what's on a lot of your minds. So I want to make sure that we cover that very in depth. When most women come to talk to me about their fitness goals, they tell me that they want to lose weight, that they want to lose body fat. But in actuality, what they don't want is to lose weight. They just want to lose body fat. Most people think they want weight loss, when what they really want is more muscle mass and less body fat. And that is truly baseline what body recomposition means. Having your muscle mass percentage go up, having your body fat percentage go down. So how do you do that? There's a couple of pretty simple ways that we can break that down. Step one would be building more muscle. And we'll dive into this a little bit deeper, but building muscle is hands down the best investment, in my opinion, that you can make in your long-term fitness journey, right? For your overall health, for your strength, for preventing osteoporosis when you get older, and for fat loss and for maintaining fat loss, right? So there's a big benefit to taking time to build muscle, and that can be really uncomfortable. I would say building muscle is generally the most challenging part of women's fitness journeys, especially when they come to work with me or they come to work with us at FD Athletics, and I say, okay, well, you're currently plateaued, you're not seeing any progress, you're only eating 1,600, 1,800 calories. We need to put on some more muscle. We need to get your baseline higher. And that can be really uncomfortable for women who think that they want weight loss, right? Because building muscle, you will generally see the scale go up a little bit because you're eating in a calorie surplus. You will probably see maybe some changes in your body that you could gain a little bit of body fat from, but it's an investment. Again, building muscle is an investment in your long-term fat loss, because when you have more muscle, your body is burning more calories throughout the entire day. So your energy expenditure is naturally increasing when there's more muscle in your body, right? Because muscle burns more or uses more calories. So burns more calories than fat mass does. When you have more muscle, you're naturally burning more calories. And this can feel counterintuitive, but it's actually helping you along your fat loss journey. I am currently in a building phase. So currently right now, I started my building phase right around my maintenance, right? And my goal with this build is to put on more muscle so that the next time I go into a cutting phase, I'm cutting down from a much higher set point of calories and I have more muscle on my physique. So I look a lot stronger and I look more toned when I cut down. Now, a lot of women, again, have the perception that building more muscle is going to make them look bulkier. And if your body fat percentage is quite high, that could be the case, but it's not that the muscle's making you look bulky. It's that the muscle plus a higher amount of body fat can make you feel like you look bulkier. But when you build the muscle and then you cut down on the body fat, that's when you look toned and you look strong and you're able to maintain that lower body fat percentage. So the reason I brought up my personal fitness journey at the moment is because building muscle is uncomfortable for me as well. Putting on more muscle mass at the moment means that I'm also seeing the scale go up. Now, some people won't see the scale go up at all. most people will see the scale go up a little bit because you're eating in a calorie surplus. I am currently now at 400 calories above maintenance. So I've increased my calories slowly. We did a 150 calorie increase from the jump, right from my maintenance. Then we did another 150 calories, and now we're right around another 100 calories up from that. So maybe I'm 450 calories over maintenance, something around there at the moment. So I have seen the scale go up a couple of pounds. I also do feel uncomfortable at times. It can feel counterintuitive to put on a little more body fat and to feel full all the time. Like, I will tell you, every time I eat a meal, I'm full. But I'm making this temporary sacrifice of temporary discomfort because I know 6 months from now, my goal is not to have to build and cut again and again. I know 6 months from now, when I want to go into a cutting phase, potentially, depending on how I feel at that point, I'm going to be able to cut for 8 to 12 weeks and then maintain my progress very easily and not have to jump into another building phase right away unless I really want to. So again, we'll go back to the beginning. Why is building muscle the best investment, in my opinion, you can make on your fitness journey? It increases your metabolic rate. So more muscle burns more calories, meaning you can eat more calories and maintain a lower body fat percentage. Plus, you look so much fucking better when you have more muscle in your frame and then you lose body fat. The reason why a lot of women go into a cutting phase and they say, oh, I just still have that last 5 to 10% body fat that they want to lose and feel skinny fat, right? Where they feel like they're not able to get that 5 to 10% off. It's because they haven't built enough muscle so that they can actually cut down for long enough with healthy hormones and a healthy approach and not having to severely restrict their calories and actually be able to sustain that progress after because they're not going drastically low. Now, I work with a lot of women who do come to me eating a very low calorie amount, right? So they come to me, maybe they're eating 1,400 calories, 1,500 calories, 1,600 calories, and they say, I want to continue to cut down. Like, I can't lose this last 5 to 10 pounds, or I can't lose this last 5% body fat. Like, what do I do? And my answer almost every single time is you need to reverse diet and you need to build more muscle. And that is scary. Or they start working with us and I start by increasing their calories right from the jump, about 150, 200, maybe even 300 calories, depending on how low their macros are. And they say, oh my God, Sarah, I'm so full. It's so super uncomfortable to hit these macros. And I have to be completely blunt and honest and say you're full and you're feeling uncomfortable with the amount of food because your body has adapted to such a low calorie amount. And you're going to stay plateaued. You're going to stay adapted to that amount unless you're temporarily uncomfortable while we're putting on more muscle as your body is starting to adapt to the higher calories, because your body is super fucking smart. Your body is very adaptive. And if you take it slow and incrementally increase, and you're lifting weights, so you're building muscle, your metabolism will start to adapt. Your hunger levels will rise. Again, when you have more muscle, you're burning more calories, you will feel hungrier. But it's not gonna happen in just a couple of days. So there's going to be a temporary discomfort. Like I am not the type of coach that will bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, it's all going to be just roses and unicorns and butterflies and happen overnight. It's going to be uncomfortable at certain points. And those points of pain are going to be what test you. Are you able to stick with it, right? We'll talk about one of my clients, my client Courtney here. And she is an amazing example of how it can be really uncomfortable to build, but why pushing through that building phase can ultimately make your transformation like the transformation. You see these huge transformations on social media. You have no idea what their background is, how long they've been training, but you see these huge transformations. And if you want a transformation like that, girl, where you have a ton of muscle mass, you have that fat, peachy gym girl booty, you have to spend time being uncomfortable. Point blank, you have to spend time being uncomfortable. That's what I'm doing right now. Come back around 8 months from now, you're going to be mind blown by my transformation because I'm going all in on this building phase. But let's talk about my client, Courtney, here. So Courtney and I had actually worked together previously, about a year before she came back to me. During the time apart, she temporarily worked with another trainer who had brought her calories really, really fucking low. So when she came back around, she said, Sarah, I need help. I've adapted. I'm not losing any more body fat. I want to lose more body fat. I want to body recomp, but I don't know where to go because I'm only eating 1,600 calories. So when and I think at one point she had been brought down to around 1,400 calories, but when she came to me, it was around 1,600. So when I started working with her, we immediately bumped her up a little bit. She was at 1,650 calories. And throughout the last 8 months, we've been slowly increasing her calorie intake. She is now eating 2,465 calories, 2,465 calories. So she is up 815 calories, and she's eating that on a daily basis. Her transformation is fucking insane because she trusted the process. Even at the beginning when she was full and it was uncomfortable to eat that much volume of food because she had been eating such a low amount, her body had adapted to that. She trusted the process. Now she's down about 3.5 pounds here, but we haven't even started her cutting phase. And she has so much more muscle. Her body fat percentage has already started going down, and we have primed her body where now she can cut down from the 2,465 calories, where when she was at 1,600 calories, we had nowhere to go. So if you're coming into me and you're saying, hey, Sarah, I'm only eating 1,600 calories or 1,800 calories and I want to cut down, what do? I'm going to say you need to get uncomfortable temporarily, and we're going to need to build more muscle, right? And even for someone like me, who I have been training for 11 years consistently in the gym, but I'm not this huge jacked muscle mommy. I have a good amount of muscle, don't get me wrong, but I want to be a jacked muscle mommy and I want more muscle, so I have to get uncomfortable again. I am used to, and it is something that will fuck with your head, right? Especially if you are someone who does maintain a very lean physique year round. Like I work with a lot of clients who are pretty advanced with training. I don't work with as many people who are new to training, maybe new to like a hypertrophy style of training and body recomposition and going through phases of building and cutting. But a lot of the women that I work with have been training for a long time, but what they're looking to do is take it to the next level. So that's what I'm using myself as a case study right now, because I am very, very advanced with training. I'm very, very advanced with tracking macros. But spending 6, 8, 10 months of specifically building muscle, being uncomfortable in a calorie surplus is hard for everybody. It doesn't matter how long you've been training, it's uncomfortable, right? And for me especially, I am someone who puts my body out into the world. You know, I'm always taking content and training videos and photos and progress photos, and I'm used to being at a very low body fat percentage. So I'm showing you that it's fat loss is the easier part, unless, again, you have maybe chronic illness or hormonal issues, which I can help with as well, but fat loss is generally the easy part. The really challenging part is how long it takes to build muscle and what goes into that, because it can take 6 months to even put on 5 pounds of muscle, and that is if you're training diligently and you are on your shit with your nutrition and you're eating in a decent surplus every single day. It can take a long time for women to build muscle. Now, if you're completely new to this world, if you're new to the gym, you actually have it a little bit easier, right? If you're very advanced, your body does adapt a lot quicker. So for me, in order to actually progress very systematically in the gym, I need to be going really fucking heavy. But if you're newer to the gym, your body is not as adaptive yet, so you have it a little bit easier because you have what we call newbie gains, right? You can push yourself hard within a hypertrophy rep range and increase with progressive overload, but it doesn't have to be to the same extent as somebody who does already have a lot of muscle mass and whose body and metabolism might be more adaptive. So if you're new to the gym, this is like a mic drop moment. If you're new to the gym, go in a fucking surplus and build muscle, because it's going to be a lot easier for you right now than it will be a couple years down the road. I wish so hard that at the beginning of my fitness journey, I spent a good year building muscle, because at the beginning of my fitness journey, personally, I was in a calorie deficit from the jump. I was training in the gym 7 days per week. I was on the treadmill, the Stairmaster every single day. I was running my body into the fucking ground, eating 1,300, 1,200 calories per day. And I would be so much further along my fitness journey now if I spent those first couple years building muscle instead of starving my poor body, right? I would be that muscle mommy. I'd have a dump truck. I would be a lot further along. So if you are newer to this world, if you're just starting your fitness journey, if you go all in on building muscle, you might not have to do as many reverse diets or building phases as someone like me. I've done 6 or 7 reverse diets now on my fitness journey, and every time I'm putting myself in a surplus. I might be putting on a little weight or body fat temporarily, and that period of time is very uncomfortable, so you don't want to have to do that over and over again. This is for the general public. This is not for bodybuilders. That would be a completely different approach, but for someone who is a lifestyle client, like a lot of the girls that I work with, again, it's very uncomfortable. So they say, Sarah, I just want to build for like 3 months, maybe 2 to 4 months, and we can get my calories a little higher, and then I want to start cutting. It's always, and then I want to start cutting right away. And we can do that. I'm very upfront with my clients. I like to give them, I want to give you all the options, which is what we're doing here. The only time where I'm like, absolutely not, is when someone starts with me at like 15, 16, 1700 calories. I'm like, there's nowhere to cut down from. We can't go into a cutting phase. So let me run through kind of the couple different scenarios where someone comes to work with us and I'm right away like, we should go into a reverse diet and put on more muscle. So that's number one. If you're consistently under eating, if you're chronically dieting, if you're in a calorie surplus for an extended amount of time, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, you're plateaued, you feel skinny fat, you're not seeing more progress, you need to spend time out of a calorie deficit because your body has adapted. That's what it is. Your body has adapted to the low amount of calories. Your metabolism has adapted. You're not maximizing your progress at this point, and you're going to stay in that same spot. The second person is somebody who wants to build muscle. Reverse dieting is a great way of building muscle. Again, the difference between a reverse dieting phase and a bulking phase is, in a reverse diet, we are slowly and incrementally increasing your calorie intake. Now, primarily that's going to come from carbs and fat, because I usually recommend keeping your protein between 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. But for someone who, again, might be someone who is not very good at consistently tracking macros, or maybe you feel like you've done a reverse diet or a bulk before and you've gained too much excess body fat, I would take it very slow and incremental. Increase about every 2 to 3 weeks by 100 to 150 calories. And very, very important key factor here, especially if you're not working with a coach, because a coach would do this for you, monitor your progress. Monitor your progress. You need to be doing, if you're not working with a coach and checking in every week, you need to be checking in with yourself. You need to be going and taking your progress photos, taking your measurements, doing your weigh-ins at least once per week, so you can see how your body's adapting. When I say increase every 2 to 3 weeks, if your body is really adaptive, let's say we do 150 calorie increase, the scale doesn't change the first week, the scale doesn't change the second week, I'm upping those calories again. I'm upping those macros a little bit of a quicker rate. Now, some people, like my client Courtney that I was chatting about, her metabolism is super, super freaking adaptive. She's also worked with me previously. She had a good amount of muscle, so her base was there. So she is someone we can increase macros a little bit more rapidly. Let's switch gears. We'll talk about my client, Bree. Bree is a newer client. We've only been working together for 8 weeks at this point. We've increased her calories by about 250. So again, she started with me around 1,800 calories. We're now in the low 2,000 calories, and she is dropping inches. She is dropping body fat, but we're not seeing a big change in the scale. Now, an 8-week transformation, again, is not very long, and we're only doing 3 months of building, which is different from someone who would be doing a longer term reverse diet. But I want to just throw this in here because even if the scale is not changing, I think a lot of women come into their, again, body recomposition journey expecting this huge weight loss when we're actually looking for fat loss. But as you can see in these photos here, that's very evident. Her muscle mass is going up as her calories are going up, and her strength is going up, and her body fat is going down. So again, we're not gatekeeping anything here. Most women think they want weight loss, but what they actually want is fat loss. And how you lose body fat, body recomp. That's what we want. More muscle mass makes it easier to lose body fat, and then makes it easier to maintain. So Bree is a really great example, even though we're only 8 weeks into working together, how much increasing your calories in the right way and slowly, again, this is only a 250 calorie increase in 8 weeks. That's very, very slow, but it's working because her body's adapting. So she has a very different rate of metabolic adaptation than someone who has trained consistently and put on a sufficient amount of muscle before, who might adapt quicker. So this is why taking your progress photos, taking your weigh-ins, taking your measurements is super fucking important. And it's a lot harder to stay accountable to doing this when you're not working with a coach. But I do recommend doing it, even if it's bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. Still take your progress photos, take your measurements, keep track of the data, because that's what will make you consistently understand how your body responds. Like I have women message me very, very regularly asking me, where should my calories be to lose fat? Where should my calories be to reverse diet and build muscle? Where should my calories be to body recomp? I can't answer that question because of this, right? Because your metabolism is adaptive. Because your body adapts to what you do consistently. So if you're in a fat loss phase, you don't just have one set of macros for a calorie deficit. Like, again, I'll use my client Courtney as an example. Right now, she's eating 2465 calories, right? So we're going to start her cutting phase. We're actually just about to start her cutting phase. So stay tuned for her progress 12, 15 weeks from now, because it's going to be incredible with how much muscle she has on her physique at the moment. But we're going to start her cutting phase at 2,465 calories. Her first decrease will probably be about 100 calories. We'll go down to 2,350 calories, and I might up her cardio a little bit to increase her energy expenditure. If she drops, let's say she drops 1.5 pounds the first week. Let's say we check in again the next week, she drops a pound. Say we check in again the third week, and we don't see any changes. Okay, we know her body has probably adapted at that point. But I do have another client who's a really great example of how everyone's body is so different and you need a different approach, and her name is Nia. So Nia and I have worked together for about 12 months, about a year now, 11 or 12 months, and she has lost 37 pounds, and she has consistently dropped weight. When we were at the end of her cutting phase, we kept her on the same macros for 14 weeks, and she consistently dropped a pound every single week. She was consistently dropping weight every week, and we didn't need to adjust and change her macros to the same extent as someone like, again, maybe someone whose body adapts very quickly. I'm trying to think of someone off the top of my head, but someone whose body is like my client Erin, whose body does adapt very quickly. For someone like Erin who has a high amount of muscle mass from the beginning, her body is extremely adaptive. So right now we're in a building phase, but same when she's in a cutting phase, her body adapts very quickly. So generally every 2 weeks or so, we can make an adjustment. We can do another cut. We can do another increase. But for Nia, for that example, she is someone whose body was not very adaptive. So we were able to drop 12 or 14 pounds of weight on the scale with keeping her macros exactly the same. So that is why it's so important to know your data and know how your body in particular responds, because there are so many factors that go into this scale. Again, I could do a whole podcast episode on why it's so important not to just focus on the scale as a rate of progress. Again, your strength, your energy, your muscle development, your body fat, how you're fitting in your clothes, your confidence, your digestion. There's so many, your hormones, so many things that go into progress that have nothing to do with the scale. And they're all intertwined. But this is just to tell you that, again, everyone's journey is very different, and you cannot compare where you are at currently to what someone else is doing that's working for them, because where your body is currently adapted, where your metabolism is at, your hormones, if you do have a chronic illness, if you have really bad gut health issues, like, you need to understand your body. And if you don't have the data and you're not checking in with a coach or with yourself, you won't understand how your body is truly responding. So how long should you reverse diet and stay in a surplus? You know, this is definitely a tricky question because it depends on you and what you're able to commit to. I would recommend 6 to 8 months. Again, it takes a long time for women to build muscle. I have had clients commit to doing 8 to 12 months of just building muscle and reverse dieting, but I will say it is extremely rare that women are okay with committing to that timeline. But again, building muscle is the best investment you can make on your fitness journey. So if you are willing to commit to that and be temporarily uncomfortable and understand that the fat loss phase is actually the more simple phase. It is really fucking hard for women to put on muscle because we don't have high testosterone levels like men do. But fat loss is generally pretty straightforward. Again, we're slowly decreasing macros, increasing energy expenditure. We're not taking it too quick so that we don't hit plateaus too quickly. But a fat loss phase, you can lose a pound per week, and you can lose a good amount of body fat in 12 to 14 weeks. But to build muscle, it takes a hell of a lot longer than 12 to 14 weeks. So spend more time building muscle. If you take one thing away from this podcast or this video that you're watching, I'm going to put it on YouTube and on my podcast. If you take one thing away, it's build more muscle as a woman. Build more muscle. Again, if you want that strong muscle mommy, girl, weightlifting, gym girl booty, Pilates core, build more muscle because it'll help you maintain a lower body fat year round. And then you'll have the Pilates core, because what a Pilates core really is just having more muscle development, which you'll actually get from weightlifting and targeting your core and then dropping body fat. That's what everyone wants. You still need to lift your weights and you need to lift heavy. That's another part about reverse dieting and body recomp and building muscle that I didn't dive into as much, but you need to be training really fucking hard. The nutrition piece is key. It's super important, and you need a nutritional strategy, and you need to go all in on the building phase. But training volume, training consistency, tracking your weights, progressive overload is also, if you don't have that, you're just going into a surplus and you'll put on body fat. But if you are training, if you're tracking your weights, tracking progressive overload, if you're training correctly, hitting all of your muscle groups twice per week, and you can still only train 3 to 5 days per week and see incredible results. I have plenty of clients who only train 3 days per week and see absolutely amazing results, but you need to be tracking your progress. And you need to be training with the focus on hypertrophy and progressive overload. So hypertrophy just refers to the rep range between 6 to 12 reps generally, and you need to be following the same workouts for at least then you are going to be burning calories during the time you're doing cardio. If you're doing 45 minutes of cardio, yes, you're burning calories during that 45 minutes, but the rest of the day, nothing. Doesn't matter. It's just during that time. If you are weightlifting, you are burning calories, yes, during the time you're weightlifting. It might not be as much because your heart rate's not as high on your Apple Watch, Fitbit, or Ring things. But the rest of the day, as your body is working on overtime trying to recover from these workouts, you're burning more calories throughout the entire rest of the day. So it's super, super important to understand how weight training affects your body. And when you have more muscle, again, you burn more calories throughout the day, which can make a huge, huge difference in being able to maintain your fat loss. So always keep weight training, even if you're in a cutting phase or you're in a build, of course, when you're in a building phase, but even when you're in cutting phase, weight training is super effing important. I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything about my cutting phase with my little notes here. Yeah, so how to maintain muscle in a cut. Why do you want to take your cut slower? So I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but why we want to take your cut slower is to make sure that we're doing it in a very, very sustainable way. If you go too quickly and drop your calories too low when you're in a cutting phase, you're going to risk your metabolism adapting a lot quicker, and then you won't be able to go as long in a cut, right? So let's say I do that first calorie drop, maybe we see a pound down the first week, the second week, the third week. So you come and you check in with your coach, you check in with me, you check in with yourself. We say, okay, your body hasn't adapted. We're still dropping weight. We're still dropping body fat. I'm still feeling good in the gym. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling energized. We can keep these calories the same. Maybe 5 weeks go by, we've dropped 5 pounds, and then we don't see any other changes on the scale. So we say, okay, now your body's adapted. Your body's adapted. We're slowing down the rate of progress. Now we can pull back a little bit. Okay, now we can say, okay, maybe it's time to do another macro drop, or maybe we keep macros the same and increase your cardio by another 20 minutes for the week so that we have more energy expenditure that way. If you take it slower, even though it's not fun to take it slower, if you take it slower, your progress is always going to be more sustainable because you don't have to make as drastic changes, which is why when we work with clients leading up to summer, I always like to have a good 10 to 12 weeks to get ready. And that way, if we get to the end of their cutting phase and they're so happy with their progress, they're seeing the shreds there and they're feeling really good, we can just do maybe 2 increases, bring them back up to maintenance, do it really slowly over summer. They can have the flexibility of eating a little more food while maintaining their progress because we take it very slow. We give their body, we give their metabolism time to adapt. So it's really important to have a strategy. Again, you can stay at the maintenance level, train hard, and continue to see slow body recomp progress throughout the entire year. But if you want to see those big dramatic changes, you need a really concrete strategy. And I know these are not sexy words, right? These are not sexy words. This is not how to get a six-pack in 30 days because that shit is bullshit. It doesn't work. You're not going to get a six-pack in 30 days unless you're already at 16% body fat and you have a really strong base. I mean, even so, you wouldn't get a six-pack in 30 days. In order to get a six-pack, you need to build more muscle in your abdominals, in your core, and then you need to cut down to bring your body fat percentage low enough to show your core. Again, you're not going to get a six-pack by training abs. Sorry, you're not. You're not going to get a six-pack by training abs unless you're locked and fucking loaded with your nutrition and your body fat percentage is low enough to see your abs. I barely even have abs right now. I'm so used to having a full six-pack, but my body fat percentage is a little higher than it normally is. My body fat percentage is probably like 19% now, which again is part of the process. And here's another thing. I think women are so hard on themselves in a building phase instead of embracing it for what it is. I know when I go into a cut, I'm going to see progress within 4, 6, 8 weeks of cutting. I know that. I've done it many times myself. I've done it for probably thousands of clients at this point. I know that progress is there. I know that progress is going to continue to come when you go into a cutting phase. You're in a different phase. I'm in a phase right now where my body fat percentage isn't supposed to be going down because I'm eating in a surplus and my goal is building muscle. Is that sometimes challenging for me to wear the same clothes that I normally wear when my body fat percentage is lower? Do I sometimes have negative body image days? Of course. I'm human. We all have those negative body image challenges, but it's a temporary discomfort. And for me especially, I'm trying to embrace the fun parts of being in a surplus. Number one, I have more food. So I have more strength, more energy, more flexibility with my nutrition than if I was in a cutting phase. Number two, my butt is juicier. My boyfriend loves the curves. I think it's also like the male gaze versus female gaze. If you have a partner, like men generally want women to have a little bit higher body fat percentage. They like something to grab onto, And I think for women, especially if you come from like a background like me of being, this was so long ago. I started my fitness journey back in like 2014, but I was so focused on like having the lowest body fat percentage possible that now I've really shifted my focus to trying to understand that like sexy and confident is a feeling. And I know I can easily drop body fat whenever I want to. I'm doing this for my long-term happiness and my long-term goals and what I want to accomplish on my own fitness journey. But sexy and confident is a fucking feeling, right? One day I wake up, I feel amazing. I'm like, put me in a bikini. Let me show off this bod. Look at these curves. Look at these legs. And then maybe the next day, I don't know, I got a shitty night's sleep. My cortisol is higher. I'm in my luteal phase, so I'm feeling inflamed and watery. And I'm like, oh my God, now I feel so uncomfortable in my own skin. Your body didn't change overnight. How you feel about your body might have changed overnight, but your body didn't actually change overnight. So I really shifted my focus to focusing on the fun parts of this, of like, oh my God, I can push myself so much harder in the gym because my food is a lot higher and my recovery is a lot better. I do have more flexibility. Like I'm embracing this stage for what it gives me and the fun parts of it, Because those negative body image moments are going to happen whether I'm 16% body fat, 20% body fat, 24% body fat. Like we all have those moments of negativity, and it usually has nothing to do with your body, but more so about like just something going on in your life or stressors that are impacting you and impacting your cortisol levels that you're taking out on your body. Because as women, we tend to do that. We feel as though like our body is something within our control, or just like moralizing. Like if I don't feel good about my body, I'm a bad person, like moralizing yourself a little bit, or your food choices, like, oh, I ate this, I'm bad, I ate this, I'm good. When your food choices don't make you a good or bad person, it's not a moral dilemma, it's just how you feel about yourself. So I think it's really important to take it as it comes, but recognize like each phase is gonna have its benefits and challenges. So I try to really take that like cup half full type of approach instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That would be like me spilling this entire cup on myself and being like, well, fuck it, I feel bad today, so this whole thing sucks and I'm not gonna get where I wanted to be because I feel negative for one day. No, it's a temporary moment of discomfort, which we all have, but it doesn't mean that you're not still working very consistently towards where you want to be and who you want to be. And I think a really important mindset to have is that I show up in this world no matter how I feel about my body, because as women, we tend to let our bodies really negatively affect how we show up in the world and how we show up with our partners. I am not my body. I don't show up in the world as I feel shitty about my body, so I feel shitty about everything and everyone, and I'm so upset. No, this is just my body. That's not who I am, right? This is not who I am. One day I feel bloated, the next day I feel lean. That's not who I am. So I'm gonna show up in the world the same fucking way, with the same confidence, whether I am exactly where I want to be at my end result or where I am right now feeling slightly uncomfortable. I will always show up as much as I possibly can with the best of intentions of bringing confidence. And it might be fake confidence sometimes where I'm like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. I'm just gonna wear the crop top even if I don't feel comfortable or I feel bloated today. I think sometimes you do, especially when you're in a phase of like you know it's temporary discomfort, you know you're doing it for your long-term goals, but you also, and you know how much that's going to benefit you, and you have to just show up. You have to always keep showing up. Super important. So that's my little mini rundown on building, body recomp, cutting. Hopefully this inspires you to understand what the right approach is for you. And again, don't compare your timeline to anyone else. Someone like me who's been lifting for 11 years is going to have a really different approach and timeline than someone who's just starting, or someone who's a year in, or someone who needs to lose 100 pounds as compared to someone who needs to lose 10% body fat. Like, everyone's going to have a different approach. Everyone's going to have a different timeline. And my goal with this video was to just give you more insight onto maybe what that should look like for you. And maybe you're saying, holy shit, Sarah, I have been eating 1,600 calories for the last 10 months, or like I've been under eating. I'm not tracking my intake. I have no idea if I'm eating enough protein. And side note, most women who don't track their macros are vastly under eating on protein. So it can be a really great tool just to see nutritionally, even if you're not working on specific fitness goals, where your intake is at. And if you are wanting to take it to the next level, maybe you're feeling called out. You're like, shit, I've been plateaued. I've been losing the same amount of 5 to 15 pounds or 5 to 10% body fat, and I'm super fucking frustrated with the lack of results I'm seeing. Decide on the phase. Are you going to spend 10 months building? Are you going to say, okay, I'm going to go to maintenance. I'm going to slowly body recomp. Maybe it'll take me a year. Maybe it'll take me 2 years, but that's what I'm deciding on. Pick a freaking phase, pick an approach, and stick with it. So many people bounce back and forth between approaches and workout styles and different diets, different trends. And that's why they don't see the results, because they don't stick with it long enough. Pick an approach. Go all in on it. You will see the results as long as you're taking an approach that's sustainable. And if you want to take it to the next level and you need specific support, help, and accountability, that is what we do. Personalized program, custom workouts, meals, macros, accountability, check-ins, hype, support, community, education. That is what I do. That is what I've been doing for the last 8 years. It is my purpose. It is my passion. I started my fitness journey for what felt like selfish reasons at the time. I was so insecure in my body, and I was so hyperfixated on how I look, and I felt like my worth literally came from how I looked. And then I went all in on it, and I got the education, and I got my personal training cert and started helping women in person. And I realized, holy shit, my fitness journey impacted how I viewed myself so much that it made me want to help other women, and it became so much bigger than I ever thought it would be. This is my purpose in the world, to help women feel confident in themselves and to show up in the world differently, to show up in the world with confidence and assurance and understanding who the fuck they are. And that yes, is part of like changing your body so you feel confident, but more than anything, it's about making a commitment to yourself and recognizing how much that commitment can snowball into every single area of your life. So this is what I do. This is my passion. I fucking love this. I love making challenging workouts for women. I love helping women when they feel like they can't show up for themselves, finding that motivation, finding that inspiration to keep going and keep making that commitment to themselves.